and welcome to today's class on event management. Today's discussion, we will focus on the overview of key steps in events planning. That's what I want us to be able to look at today. And this is a continuation of our series that we have been having on events management, where we have identified different categories of events and seeing how to organize each one of them. And so today I wish to give now a broad overview of the key steps that are involved. Please welcome and let's work together in this. My name is Dr. Mutinda of the School of Hospitality Management in Mount Kenya University. Thank you. And so within this, I'll go straight to the key steps that are involved in the planning of an event. And the very first step is to define the goal of your event. No event should ever be planned without knowing what is it that you want to be able to achieve at the end of the day. Answering the question about what the event is all about, what the purpose of that event that you are planning, what do you want to achieve at the end of the day upon having undertaken this event. What we are saying is, kindly, as you do this, ensure that you are quite realistic in your planning and you are also very specific in all that you are putting together. Having understood the event goal, which you also call the event concept, that is going to be also bring out the theme of that event, the goal of the event, and the objective that you want to be able to realize at the end of the day. We also recommend that you get organized now with the same. In this case, we expect that you're going to put an organizer, and it may be as simple as a ring binder and with the dividers, where you are going to be able to put all the information that is required within, for you to plan for your event. Besides doing this, you may also consider adding there or creating your computer desktop folders where you can be able to keep all the electronic correspondences. What is going to be happening as you go through your event, you're going to have several meetings you're going to hold with your staff. You're going to have several documents that are going to be coming from the suppliers you want to be able to engage. Contracts are going to be there. You're going to have communications coming in, receipts coming in. At the end of the day, you want to get organized in a way that you are able to retrieve and get to where all that information is. And that's why I'm saying you create a ring binder or you create folders within your computer system, or computer desktop, where you can keep all your electronic correspondences that pertain to that event. As you do this, part of your getting organized is to have a contact list in your mail account for all your event contacts. Create a database of all those that you want to be able to contact as you go into this event that you are planning to have. As you do this, the other thing that we also need to recommend that you do is to put together a timeline for your event. Deciding on what are the key milestones and timelines that you want to operate within is critical to the success of your event. And so we are recommending that you are going to have a timeline, and this timeline must be able to list all the key activities that are going to be done and when each one of them is going to be done. We always work with what we call a Gantt chart. Now, a Gantt chart will list the event itself and tabulate also the time, and then it's shaded in a way that you are able to see just with a single view of the key activities and the key timelines of that particular event that you are working on. You need to communicate. That's the other step, the key item that you must be able to involve yourself in. Communication here, you're communicating with your staff, you're communicating with the potential attendants to the event, you're communicating with the suppliers who are going to be giving you any supplies for that event. So we expect that for the staff, you're going to have regular event planning team meetings, but of course don't make them too regular. You need to allow people space to go and execute what you have already agreed to be done, and then you meet again to review progress with your team. You have to work together with your team members as you implement this. You need to make sure that each one of your members is aware of what the event goal is. What you're looking at here is a total buy-in from your team members. That they'll understand, all of them, what you are working towards and what at the end of the day you want to be able to achieve and realize. So you need to clearly also define each person's responsibility, who is going to be doing what, that at least is very clear from the beginning that so and so is involved in this particular area. Make sure that you have updated and correct contact information of everyone who is going to be involved within your work. So you're not only knowing who the members are, but you're also having their contacts, their phone numbers and emails, so that you can be able to communicate with them and keep them informed with what is happening within the event creation or event planning task. So with that, as you mentioned, you need to create a checklist, because that whenever you have a meeting together with your team, then you are able to tick, have we achieved this? Has this already been done? And that now becomes key as you are working towards achieving your timelines. Remember, we said you put the timelines. Now here we are assigning persons to the particular activities within that timeline. And so your meetings are going to be evaluation meetings where you have a checklist ticking what has been done and what has not been done. That's the work where you need that checklist. It will be very crucial within your planning with your team. So you need to time and again review your timelines and review the progress that have been done during every meeting. So we're saying your agenda for the meeting with your team is to be able to check where are we as far as the planning is concerned. And that's where you're having a checklist for all the tasks that needed to be done and whether it has been already done. That when you meet your work is to be able to tick. Besides communicating with your team, the other most important thing is to prepare your budget. Now you need to establish your event budget from the very beginning. And within your budget, this one, you need to understand your budget doesn't have to define your event or interfere with your goal. At the end of the day, your budget is meant to be fitting into your goal or into your event itself. So we are telling you, before you commence the planning, please get organized. So get organized before you get started. So in this case, you are going to be able to use worksheets that can be available to do the budgeting, and you need also to be able to keep track of all the expenses that you are incurring, and you forecast what kind of expenditures you're going to have. Now your budget, part of what must be able to address, it is going to be addressing every key expense item. If you are hiring the venue, let that be captured there, that we know how much will the venue cost us. If you're going to engage staff, then you also need to capture there what are the staff costs. Marketing and promotion, you want to have that also there. Matters to do with even equipment that you are going to be able to require for purposes of running your event. Again, that also has to be included within your budget. And so those are some of the items you're saying. But looking at some of the worksheets that we are going to provide, then that should be able to tell you this is what you need to capture. What kind of cost item, what quantities of the same, at cost, how much is it per unit, and what is the total for that particular expenditure item. Then you have the total for the entire event captured together within your budget. Then once you are done with your budget, you need now to ask yourself, so where do we get money from to finance this event? And this is where the rubber meets the road, as I would say it. At the point when you're thinking about where to raise money for your event, we provide you with a number of options that you can have. The one that most of the event organizers will go for is the one on sponsorship, where you're going to raise sponsors for your event. Now, as you think about raising sponsors, we are going to have more detail on this. You have to identify the sponsor as far as what would their interest be in your event. That these corporates, organizations, and individuals can be able to come in and identify with your event and be prepared to put in their money and the resources into an event. And so that is one of the ways you're going to raise this. Besides sponsorship, you can also get donations. You can also charge admission fees. That also becomes part of the sources of money for your event. You can also do vendor booths, where you allow people to come and exhibit their products, and then they pay for that booth that they are using. You can also get a grant, and a grant is free money that you're going to be given either by the government, some charitable organization, for you to be able to to host that event. Or you can also be able to work closely with others who have organized or planned a successful event in a previous period of time. So that way then you are able to learn from them on how they went about this. And just some special note on sponsorship. Now, this one is mentioned as a great way of raising money, both raising money and also in kind support for events. And as you think about this, what we need to come with what we call the value proposition, coming up with a valuable sponsorship plan. Asking yourself, what is it that we want the sponsor for? Within your budget, you have listed several items that need to be funded. You have the venue there, you have the media and the publicity, or the marketing and publicity coming there, you have also the staff coming in there, you might also be looking for the audiovisual equipment, and many other items that you are going to require for purposes of your event. Now, as you identify your sponsors, then you need to ask, do I need an overall sponsor for the event, or am I looking for a sponsor for a particular area? So if, for example, we are looking for the venue, can we approach an organization to give us their venue, and that becomes part of their sponsorship? That now will amount to an in-kind sponsorship. But others can also be able to give you money, and that case then it becomes a monetary sponsorship. So in that case then you make a list of the potential sponsors based on what you need to accomplish, what you need to accomplish your event goals. So as I've said, if you're looking for venue, look at who are the particular sponsors that can be able to approach for the venue. If I'm looking for promotion, who can I be able to approach? So I have a data list, a list of those you can be able to approach for that. Then if you get to that, when you approach those sponsors, please write a sponsorship letter to them and explain to them what the goal of your event is, so they can be able to understand how can we come in, how can we identify with you. So in that case, you are able to talk to them and get the sponsors to work with you. These sponsors within your sponsorship plan, you will need to be able to provide a level of sponsorship based on their donations. So here now you are going to be having categorization of your sponsors. So you identify, how do we have these sponsors? In some cases, we have heard that we have the platinum sponsors, the gold sponsors. We also have the silver sponsor, the bronze sponsor. So you have the kind of categories. So now you say, whoever gives us this amount of money to this range, they are qualified to be a gold level sponsor. And those who are going to give us this category, we are going to put them in this level. Even if they are going to give you in kind, then you must have a mechanism of converting that in kind to know what would be the monetary equivalent of that as you categorize your sponsors on those levels. Now, each level of sponsor does not only come with the amount of money they are going to give to you, but also the benefits you are going to give to that sponsor for them to work with you. Remember, nobody will just sponsor your event for the sake of it. Otherwise, that would be a grant or a donation. Anyone who's coming to be a sponsor for your event, they are also looking for a benefit they are going to be able to get from your event. So what kind of benefits can you be able to give? You can allow them to be to advertise within your site. So where you are promoting your event, if you are running an advert, you also allow them to have their advert there. You can also have the on-site promotion. So during the day of the event, if it's going to be an open ground event, like a sporting event, then you can have them to run their banners and to run the information on-site while the event is taking place. At the same time, you can also give them public relations opportunities and exposure where people will come to know about them as a good public entity. So they take advantage of public relations opportunities available. You can also give them space at the event venue, or you can also allow them to do admission tickets. You give them free tickets for their members, so that you tell them, okay, fine, if you are sponsoring this event, you have this number of tickets for free for your organization. At the same time, you can also allow them to put their company logo on your promotional materials. So if it's brochures going out, or it's an advert that you are running in the TV or the media, then the logo of all your sponsors are available there. This one, you must have seen it particularly with these international sporting events like the World Cup. Shall always see a whole session giving names of the key sponsors, their logos there, and that's what you're talking about. Those are part of the benefits that your sponsors may be able to gain out of there. So you need also to be able to do that. So you also need to title your sponsor. In this case, what you're talking about, have their name listed in the title of your event. So that's another benefit that you're going to be able to get. So whoever is sponsoring you, let their names also be featured within the lists of names who are of those who have sponsored your event. So naming a title sponsor for your event actually has been noted as the best way to get a large donation. That's what you want to do. For example, you can talk a little bit Safaricom Lewa Marathon, for instance. In that case, the marathon is taking place in Lewa. But we have allowed Safaricom, for example, to be the key sponsor. So we tell them that, guys, we are going to name our event using your company name. So we call it Safaricom Lewa Marathon. And we see saying that's a very key way of getting a very large donation. So if you can go to an organization, tell them we brand this after you, it will be possible for you to be able to get a very large donation for your event. When you are getting your sponsors, I want to point to you some of the biggest mistakes that you can be able actually to make, so that you can be able to choose to avoid them. One, when you are choosing your sponsors, please don't choose those whose products or image is vastly different from the goal of your event. That is one big mistake. That because you want money, you just go to anybody. If you are organizing a marathon, and you go to a company that what they are dealing with is totally different from what you are doing, that is one key mistake that you can be able to make. So we are recommending, as you choose this, please look for companies whose products, whose services and image is closely related to the event goal that you are trying to propagate. Secondly, please don't go for too many sponsors, so that an event is having close to 50 of them. At the end of the day, the sponsor value diminishes the more they become. Because as we said, each one of the sponsors is looking for a value within this sponsorship. And so in that case, then, you don't need to be able to pick too many of them. But of course, you are guided by your budget and how many you are able to get within this. But don't go for too many of them. Now, ensure that within your sponsorship levels, the ones we're talking about, make sure there is a very clear difference between what distinguishes level A and level B. What makes the difference between a gold sponsor and a bronze sponsor, or a bronze sponsor, a silver sponsor, and even between a silver sponsor and a gold sponsor, depending on the levels. So making sure that those levels are very clear on what exactly makes them to be different. Again, we also say the other mistake is not enough difference in the benefits for the sponsorship levels. As much as we're also talking about the sponsorship ensuring that the levels are very distinct, the same also let it be known that the sponsorship benefits are also going to be very clear, and you're going to be categorical on that. At the same time, the other mistake you can also be able to commit is failure to deliver on the promises that you made to your sponsors when you are taking their money. So you go out there, you promise them every good thing, that once you sponsor us, we'll do this. But at the end of the day, you fail to be able to deliver that. So that's the thing we are talking about there. Kindly avoid those mistakes as you are looking at getting sponsors for your event. So although we have talked about the event venue as a key consideration within event planning, but how do we pick a venue? As you think of where to host your event, the key guidelines, first of all, is whether the venue fits your event goal. Whether the venue actually will fit the goal of your event. So if we want to do an event to raise awareness about conservation, then we don't expect you to go, and one of the most ideal places to go probably is around a park somewhere. But we don't expect you to go somewhere where wherever you are going to be has nothing to do with conservation, as it will be. So we are looking at a fit between your event venue and the goal of your event. Secondly, if you are selling admission tickets, ensure that the event is able to attract the target audience. So don't take it to a place where the audience will not be able to access where you wanted the event to be. Thirdly, is ensure that it's accessible, it's also available, and the dates are flexible. That now in the event there's going to be any change of the timelines and the dates of the event, then you can still be able to negotiate on flexibility on the availability of that venue. The size of the venue also matters a lot, and so ensure it's appropriate for your event, and also consider how much you are being charged for it. And with that, where both the total charge, the extra charges, whether they are going to be included, whether there's any cancellation fee, assuming you cancel and the event doesn't take place, what will happen, whether the price is negotiable, and whether you can be able to get some discount, or if you are required to do some deposit in that case. As you go through that again today, as you are living in the internet world, the wireless world, please also make sure whether you can check whether the venue will offer wireless internet services. Of course, that is if it's needed, because if people are going to be running in the forest for the lower marathon, why would they need internet? But of course, at some point, they may also need to be able to tweet and share to the world what's happening. But what you are saying in that case, if this one is a requirement for the nature of your event, then ensure that also is a consideration there. At that point, you also need to make a list of the things that you need to execute for your event. And when you have the complete list of what you need, then use that list to check whether the venue actually delivers those specific items that you need for to execute your event. You may also need to understand whether the event will provide you catering services, or you need to hire an outside caterer, because each one of them has its own implications. You can also look at whether you can group cater the event yourself. What we are talking about there, is it possible that you as the event organizer, can you come in and offer the catering yourself? So you have three options. Option number one, where the venue can provide you with catering services. Option number two, where you are able to bring in an outside caterer. And option number three is where you do the catering yourself for that event. So look at all those possibilities, whether they are available and which one will be better for you. We mentioned about the vendor booths, which you are going now to be giving out as a way of fundraising or raising funds to sponsor the event. Now, this when you want to think about vendor booths, and these are booths that you're going to give to clients who want to be able to do exhibitions during your event. In that case, then what do you consider when you want to do vendor booths? One, please check whether your venue allows you to do vendor booths, because that means you're going to be locating them somewhere. Now, check whether the venue will be able to allow you to do that. Secondly, whether allowing vendor booths will detract from the goal of your event. You may come up with the vendor booths, and all your attendees every now and then are out there busy engaging with the vendor, while the event goal is still being executed out there. So you need to be able to check on that, whether by allowing these vendor booths, it may end up detracting the goal of your event. You may also want to understand what type of vendor booths do you want to allow, and what kind of pricing are you going to be charging for this. Then also look at the logistics. What are you providing to these vendors, and what is the venue providing? You as the event organizer, what is that you are providing, and the venue itself, what are they providing to the vendors who are coming around. You may also need to understand the regulations around your area on the matter to do with the vendor booths and exhibitions. Are there any special licenses you require? Are there any special permits that you're going to be able to require for you to allow these vendor booths? You need to treat your vendors just the same way you would treat your would-be sponsors. So please don't treat them as lesser people or lesser parties when it comes to financing for your event. You need to treat them almost the same way. So you make sure that you give them all the information that they need to make your event successful. So tell them about the rules and regulations of the venue. Tell them about the rules and regulations for your event. Tell them about setup and tear down times. When are they supposed to set up for the event? When are they expected to tear down their booths? Tell them also the list of necessary items that you need to be able to come up with. Are you providing them with tables, or will they have to come up with the tables and chairs? What about extension cables for electricity connection? Things like tents, are you giving to them? Linen, signage, etc. So if they are coming with this, please let them know that the planner, the event planner, is not providing you any of this. Kindly organize to come around with them. The other area that we need to mention about is on the advertising and promotion of your event. In this case, your event, you need to do publicity of it so that your target audience are able to know about it, and by so doing, you deliver the benefits to your sponsors and the others, and you realize your goal. But I need to mention that advertising is expensive, and so this has to be featured and captured within your budget. So you need to use your budget wisely when it comes to advertising. You compare which media do you want to deal with in line with who your target audience is. So that becomes key, that you need to be able to check on that. So consider your target audience. That's the very starting point. Where are they? And that's where you want to advertise. So if they are found within the city, advertise there. If they are found in the villages, please don't advertise the city when you're targeting the villagers. If they are found in schools and colleges, we have no business advertising the corporate media. Just target the students where they are. And that's what you're talking about in this case, that where they are is exactly where you want to be able to advertise. What I would advise is as you buy your advertising, if you have a tight budget, only advertise in the media that will agree with you to give free publicity in the form of on-air mentions, or even editorial mentions, or even some in-kind trade. So if it's possible to talk to them and tell them, okay guys, I will advertise in your newspaper or in your media, but could you be able to give me probably an editorial coverage? Or you give us some in-kind trading between the two of us. So that's what we're talking about in that case. Make the most of a free advertising. Please take advantage of it. Things like the social media, that the Facebook, the LinkedIn, classmates.com, all those are part of what you can be able to take advantage of. Make also ensure that you can also use posters and flyers, community announcements, free publications, any available press release, emails, word of mouth, and even mailings. All those are part of what you can be able to take advantage of. Now, these ones, as much as to some extent there's some small amount of a budget, but at the end of the day, is fairly manageable. It's fairly not very expensive. You will also have to prepare your promotional materials. As you prepare your promotional materials, you need to decide if it's worthwhile to spend some of your budget on a person who will be able to design your promotional materials and also your logo. As you do that, then what you are trying to say, everything you put out with your eyes, with your event's name on it, should have a similar look. And that's why we are encouraging, please spend some money to get the designs done well, to get the logo put across well, that at the end of the day, the color, the logo, the messages are all of them in tandem with each other. So this will include what you're going to include in your advertising, your posters, all your signage and banners, all of them. We're saying let there be some sync between the messages, the logo, the colors, and what you're putting across there to the audience. So just like with advertising, your message, make sure it is quite clear and quite concise, giving across what exactly you want to say. 4 things must be very clear as you bring out your advertisement. Be very clear on what the goal of the event is. Let it be very clear to everybody who sees your promotional materials and your adverts exactly what is the goal of this event. Secondly, when and where is it happening? And thirdly, why do I want to go? let people really understand what is there for me. Why should I attend that event? I think that you also need to be able to make sure it captures there, what do I have to do to attend? So 4 things there: the goal of the event, where and when is it taking place, what is the reason why I must go, a conviction that this is the reason why you must be there. And the other thing that we are talking about is what is it that I need to do to attend that particular event. Your other area of focus is on catering for your event. We have made few mention on what you need to consider here, but now food can be the best part of your event, or on the other side, the best disaster, if there's a best disaster for an event. These are some of the things that you need to consider when catering for your event. One, whether food is appropriate for your event. Do you need really to provide food during your event? Secondly, what is your budget per person if you are going to provide food to the people? And here we're looking at how much it will cost you to provide that food, the taxes involved, any gratuities, and other charges that are going to be involved there. Then you also look at whether any of your attendees have special dietary needs. That's a key thing that you need to look at there. Now, some cases is interesting because you only come to know about the attendees when they attend the meeting or they attend the event. At every point, then you have already planned for your catering. At what point do you change for you to be able to know who do we give what and who don't we give what? Now, that is a key thing that you need to consider under that. And of course, you also need to check to compare caterers before you can settle on one. So get several quotations from caterers, know about what they have done, do some background check on who else have they served, and with that you are able to compare different caterers before you can be able to settle on one. Now we get to the day of the event. That is the real material day of any type of event. At that point, then we are saying, if you are responsible for setting up the event, please arrive some 2 to 3 hours earlier. And sometimes, depending on the size of the event, we even recommend weeks or even months. Think about the people who are in charge of putting together a global sporting event. You cannot arrive a few hours. So you're saying in that case, then you'll have arrived even several months before that to make sure everything is in place. You're going to be running around. There's going to be a lot of moving around. And so you may expect to wear comfortable clothing and shoes. And make sure you also have your binder with you that has all the contact information, that have all the details of that event for that material day. You need also to meet your volunteers and staff. Please greet them and do a pre-briefing. So you give them a briefing on what to expect of the event, who is going to be stationed where, who must be able to do what where. Don't assume because when you send them appointment letters, you told them what they are going to do. During the day of the event, make sure that you brief them, you take them through the motions of what's going to be happening for that day and who is going to be doing what. You will need to examine the venue to make sure that all the details are covered, and if applicable, make sure sound, lighting, and video have been checked. So check each one of them, that you don't find yourself with the last minute surprises when your attendees are already there. Then you set up your registration table if that is necessary for you to be able to do that. Then after the event is over, what do you need to do? Make sure that all the invoices have been paid. So please don't run away with other people's money. If they supplied you any items, kindly make sure that the payments are done. You send appreciation notes to the participants, to the volunteers, the staff, and even the sponsors. Send them notes of saying thank you for having participated and having made your event a success. Hold a meeting with your team, and this is the post-event evaluation meeting, where you are going to have a meeting with your staff to review the event and look at the successes and of course the failures and get the suggestions, so that in the future, if you have a chance to plan another, you'll have learned from the successes, you have also learned from the failures of the event that you held. And this will become possible as you hold an event with your staff and also with your volunteers all of them, sit with them, understand what went where and what went on how, and what success did we realize and what failure did we actually realize as we went through this. At that point, please make a list of these items for the next event because you need it, and make sure that your binder is complete with every contract signed and completed and executed. And at least you are able to have those contacts. You may need those contacts going into the future. That is, you are going to be planning for another event. You will need those caterers. You need those publicity guys. You also need those people who print for you your promotion materials. So you need those details and those contracts to be within your file for purposes of future use. So all the receipts that were used, or the meeting notes, or the advertising tear sheets, copies of flyers, put them, all of them in that file. So that at least in the future, even if you are not the one, then whoever comes is able to see what exactly happened. And of course, toast the champagne for yourself, rejoice and celebrate with your colleagues and your teammates that you have actually done it successfully. And with that, I say thank you very much for your listening. Bye-bye for now. Thank you.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.